Since 2007, Vietnam has entered a period of restructuring demographic bonus, with an average of 2 employees carry independency. It opens opportunities of abundant young labor force in a period of economic growth from 2010 to 2020. After a period of demographic bonus, we transition into the stage of aging population. Vietnam's population is now aging quickly because life expectancy is increasing while birth rate and death rate decreased. According to the demographers, population aging is when the population aged 65 and older accounted for over 7% of the total population, or when the proportion of people aged 60 and older accounted for over 10% of the total population. Vietnam life expectancy increased about 1.5 times the average increase in life expectancy of the world. This trend is one great achievement for Vietnam related to significant improvements in health, nutrition, and economic development of society. However, aging population also quickly creates great challenges for Vietnam.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sharing Vietnam on VTC 10 Net Viet. According to Focus, about 15 or 20 years, Vietnam will entering a aging population, while it takes France 100 years, Sweden's 85 years, and the US 75 years before entering the stage of aging population. This creates great challenge for the Vietnamese economy. To find out more information, please join me in the talk with the acting representative of UNFPA in Vietnam, Ms. RITSU NACKEN. Thank you so much for joining Sharing Vietnam. Vietnam's population ranked 14th worldwide, 8th regionally, with the fastest aging populations among Asian countries. So what factor contributing to this fact?
According to the GSO's data in 2013, Vietnam already have more than 10% of population as a people more than 60 years old age. That means the health status of the people are increasing, and the fertility rate is decreasing, and the mortality rate is also decreasing. So people in general live longer and healthier, and this is why we are facing aging. It's a natural part of the population transition. So we should not be worried or take it as a negative phenomenon, but it's an opportunity too, and it presents its own challenges.
So what impacts does aging population have on the Vietnam's economy?
Aging in general has a lot of impact in the society, not only economically, but also socially and politically. But particularly economy, of course, gets a biggest impact. The first thing is that as the aging proceeds, that economic growth typically goes down because it often comes with the population decline. For example, my country in Japan, we have more than 30% of population as older persons, and we are facing now the shortage of labor. Second aspect of aging economy is that we need to finance care for older people. A lot of older persons, as you know, get sick or permanently ill and need really home care or community-based care. So how do we finance the health insurance and health costs, as well as the care that they need? Even if they are at home, they may require some assistance.
How do you view on the ability to adapt to aging populations of Vietnam at this moment?
I think the government is very much well aware of the issue, and government also starting to think. I think it's quite evident in the recent debate that population issue has to be looked at from a very strategic national development perspective rather than the health perspective. I think in the past the government focus on population issue was about birth control and family planning, but now they are aware that we have other issues such as aging, and also the demographic dividend, that we have a large number of young people who are workforce, and we should take advantage of this golden population period. So in general, the government has a strategic perspective, but I think they need to consider more specific policy issues, such as the social pension, and also I mentioned the capability of older people. We need to utilize more what older people can do to contribute to the society. I think sooner or later the government may need to consider raising the age and also making it equal between men and women.
Forecasted shifting period to an aging population of Vietnam is shown to be the shortest in the world, why the society could not adapt to demographic change this quickly. Averagely, the Vietnamese elderly suffers 14 years of illness in his life. Besides, the proportion of elderly people living alone is growing, mainly elderly women. Conditions of life are largely very difficult, mainly relying on social care, descendants, or self-employed with no accumulation. Retirement debt budget of Vietnam's social insurance is faced with enormous challenges. Healthcare system for elderly people also has not kept up with the demographic trend yet.
Because Vietnam has a rapidly growing aging population, older people will need taking care of, and that's going to be falling most likely on the shoulders of women, creating disadvantages for them to be engaged in full-time jobs that will give them a decent income. Rather than that, they would maybe require something more flexible where they could take care of their older parents but also have some job. So these kind of social policies need to be put in place so that it doesn't fall on the shoulders of women.
Experts recommend that Vietnam should prepare in terms of economic potential, development of social security to provide a happy life for the elderly. At the same time, long-term fertility strategy to slow the switching time from population aging to aging population. Vietnam government also recognized the importance of population aging restructure and always encouraged the contribution and support from the private sector.
Chúng ta bây giờ đều rất lạc quan là Việt Nam là dân số trẻ, là đang hưng hực. Nhưng các bạn cũng không quên rằng bây giờ hơn 2 người trẻ thì có 1 người già. Chỉ đến năm 2035 thôi thì Việt Nam 1 người trẻ thì có 1 người già. Và đến năm 2050 thì khoảng 1,6 người già mới có 1 người trẻ. Nếu chúng ta không có một cái tầm nhìn xa khi hoạch định chính sách, đương nhiên về phía chính phủ cũng vậy, chúng ta sẽ đến lúc gặp phải những vấn đề rất khó giải quyết.
According to the General Statistics Office, the life expectancies of Vietnam is increasing. However, it doesn't mean that the population getting better health. So what is your view about this statement?
It is an interesting statement, and I would say that it is true that very often, although the life expectancy increases, older people are sick and not necessarily enjoying the quality of life. Even if you get sick at the old age, if you have sufficient money, you can get good health care and health services, and you can enjoy your life. So I think it is crucial for the government to make sure that people can have the minimum level of income, and that's often provided by the social insurance or social pension. Mm-hmm. However, there are a lot of challenges and issues around this social pension system.
Regardingly, only 30% of retired people getting insurance or pensions. So what are your recommendations?
If you look at the Health Age International has an interesting index that compares 96 countries, in terms of how older people in those countries can have a good well-being. Vietnam is ranking 45 among 96, which is not bad. And it's doing quite well in terms of health status and also the enabling environment, which is about how they are connected to the friends and relatives and society in general. But the Vietnam fares low in terms of the income security as well as the capability of older persons. But pension system always includes a lot of intergenerational issues and intergenerational transfer of the capital. So the government will need a very long-term vision and how they structure their social pension system.
Aging populations create great burdens for the government of Vietnam in terms of social security policies. So what are the activities of UNFPA in the past years in supporting the government to addressing this issue, as well as the private sector of Vietnam in order to share this burden with the government?
At the community level, we have two projects, two provinces in Hai Son and Ben Tre. Young people will support older persons, so that older persons have a very meaningful life. A lot of volunteerism are part of this model. At the policy level, we work with ministries such as MOLISA and MOH to make sure that they have effective policy support for older persons. We are involved, for example, in the review of the 5-year implementation of law on older persons. This is again a process to find out what are the bottlenecks, what are the challenges, and how we can improve the law and legal system to address the needs of older persons. More and more I see the government also encourage the private sector to take a larger part in making the country prosper. First of all, the companies can strictly follow the labor code and make sure that the workers can enjoy the insurance and the healthcare services. That's one thing they could do. But more proactively, they could also see the aging population as opportunities and, for example, make sure that older people who have a lot of knowledge and experience will not just retire at a very early age, but they could really guide a younger generation and support the development of the country. That the older person often have a very specific needs based on their health status and also preference or hobbies, and that could create an interesting market for the private sector. So it is important that we see it as an opportunity, and the UNFPA also try to work with the private sector right now through VCCI in Ho Chi Minh City to have some interesting dialogue about the aging population and private sector partnership.
Thank you so much for all of your sharing today. And that's the end for Sharing Vietnam today. Thank you so much for watching us. As we can see from this show, aging population create great challenges for the society of Vietnam, which required all the contributions of all stakeholders in the economy to make changes in the policy-making process. Any questions and recommendations, please email to sharingvietnam@netvietTV.net. Thank you and see you again.